My name is Olivia. I am 32 years old. I live with my husband, Daniel. We have 3 children. They are still young. I wake up early every morning. I make breakfast and help the kids get ready. Daniel drinks his tea and reads the news. After breakfast, he goes to work. He works at a small place that fixes things. I stay home with the children. Most days are the same. I clean the house. I wash the clothes. I cook lunch and dinner. I help the children with their homework. They play and laugh, and sometimes they fight. I try to stay calm. I smile when they smile. I feel tired at night, but I love them very much. Daniel is a good man. He helps when he can. At night he plays with the children. Then we eat dinner and watch a little TV. Sometimes he holds my hand. Sometimes he says, "Thank you for all you do." I always smile when he says that. I feel happy when he sees me. But now, something feels wrong. Something is different. It started a few weeks ago. Daniel came home and said, "We have a new worker. Her name is Amy." I said, "Okay." He smiled and said, "She is smart. She works fast." I didn't think about it much, but soon he spoke about her again. "She likes tea like me," he said one day. "She talks a lot. She tells funny stories." I looked at him and nodded. He smiled and looked away. One day he said, "Amy had a problem with her phone. I helped her fix it." I asked, "Isn't there someone else at work who can help?" He said, "I was there. It was quick." Another day he said, "Amy forgot her lunch. I gave her half of mine." I asked, "Why did you do that?" He said, "She was hungry." I did not say more, but my heart felt heavy. I started to feel worried. I did not say it out loud, but I thought about it all the time. Was Amy trying to take my place? Did Daniel like her more than he liked me? One morning, I walked to the shop with the baby in the stroller. The other 2 kids walked beside me. I saw Amy near her house. She looked at me and smiled. "Hi," she said. "You are Daniel's wife, right?" I said, "Yes." She looked at the kids and said, "Wow, you have a big family." I nodded. She said, "Daniel is so helpful at work. I like talking to him. He is always kind." I smiled, but inside I felt cold. She looked at Daniel like he was more than a worker. She looked proud, like he was hers. That night, Daniel came home late. He said, "I stayed to help Amy finish some papers." I said, "Why didn't someone else help?" He said, "No one else stayed." I asked, "Do you enjoy being with her?" He looked at me and said, "She is just a friend. You don't need to worry." But I did worry. I watched him more. When he smiled at his phone, I asked, "Who is that?" He said, "Just a friend." I asked, "Amy?" He looked angry. "You are thinking too much," he said. "It's nothing." One day, I heard him on the phone. He said, "Yes, I can help this Saturday." After he hung up, I asked, "Who was that?" He said, "Amy. Her car won't start." I said, "I'll take a look." I looked at him. "Why do you need to help her? She can call someone else." He said, "I'm just being kind." I said, "You are being more than kind." He got up and walked away. I stayed at the table. I looked at my hands. They were dry from washing dishes all day. I looked at the wall. It felt cold. That night I went to bed early. I could not sleep. I looked at Daniel. He slept beside me. I used to feel safe next to him. Now I felt alone. The next day I saw my friend Ellen. I told her, "I think another woman wants my husband." She looked at me and said, "Do you have proof?" I said, "No, but I feel it." She said, "Sometimes feelings are true. Talk to Daniel again. Don't keep it inside." That night, I waited for Daniel to come home. He kissed the baby and hugged the kids. Then he sat at the table. I put food on his plate. We ate in silence. After the kids went to bed, I said, "Daniel, I need to talk." He looked at me. I said, "Do you still love me?" He looked surprised. "Yes, of course I do." I said, "Then why do you spend so much time with Amy? Why do you smile more with her than with me?" He said, "I don't smile more with her." I said, "You talk about her. You help her. You give her time. I feel like I am not enough." He said, "You are my wife. She is just a person at work." I looked down. "It does not feel like that." He was quiet. Then he said, "I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't think about it like that." I said, "Please don't see her outside of work. Please don't give her your time like that again." He said, "Okay, I won't." I wanted to believe him, but my heart still felt afraid. I loved him. I loved our children. I loved our home. I did not want to lose him, but Amy was still near. She was still at his job. She was still young and free. And I was tired. I was busy with the kids. I was not always smiling. I was not always pretty. I was not new. I did not know what would happen next. But I knew I had to stay strong. I had to protect my family. I am sharing my story, hoping they reach someone. Are you there? Are you listening? If so, let me know. Drop a hello or tell me where you're listening from. Just knowing you're here means everything. The next week, Daniel came home early. He brought bread and juice for the kids. They smiled and hugged him. I stood in the kitchen and watched. I was happy to see him smile, but my heart still felt heavy. I asked myself, is he really trying to stay away from Amy? After dinner, I cleaned the table. Daniel helped the children with a small puzzle. I looked at him. He looked calm and happy. I wanted to believe everything was okay. I wanted to stop thinking about Amy, but I could not forget how she looked at him, how she smiled when she said his name. The next morning, Daniel kissed me before leaving. He said, "I'll be home early today." I said, "Okay, see you soon." I watched him walk out the door. I hoped he meant his words. Later that day, I took the kids to the park. They played on the swings and ran on the grass. I sat on a bench and watched them. I smiled, but I was still thinking about Daniel. I looked at the time. It was almost 4. I thought, he will be home in an hour. At 5, I was back home. The kids were tired. I made them a snack and turned on a cartoon. I looked at the clock again. Daniel was not home yet. I called his phone. It rang, but he didn't answer. At 6, he walked in. He looked tired. I asked, "What happened? You said you will come early." He said, "There was more work." I asked, "Were you with Amy?" He looked at me. "No," he said. "I was with my boss." I wanted to believe him, but I felt unsure. That night, after the kids went to bed, I sat with Daniel in the living room. I said, "I'm scared. I feel like I'm not good enough anymore." He looked at me and said, "Why do you say that?" I said, "Because I see how she looks at you. I feel it every day." Daniel took my hand and said, "I told you I won't meet her outside of work. I didn't break my word. Please trust me." I nodded. I didn't want to cry. I just wanted peace in my heart. The next day, I met Ellen again. We sat outside and drank juice. I told her what Daniel said. She said, "It's good he is listening to you, but don't let fear eat you inside. Talk when you feel something." I nodded. I knew she was right. The days passed. Daniel came home on time. He played with the kids. He helped with the dishes. We laughed a little more. I started to feel better. I thought, maybe it is over. Maybe he sees how much I care. One afternoon, I took the kids to the small shop. I saw Amy outside. She was talking on the phone. She looked at me and waved. I gave a small wave back. She walked over and said, "Hi, how are you? I haven't seen Daniel much at work. He stays quiet now." I just smiled. She looked at the kids and said, "They look sweet. You are lucky." I said, "Yes, am." She said goodbye and walked away. I looked at her walk. Her hair moved in the wind. Her dress was new. She always looked perfect. I looked down at my old sweater and shoes. I thought, does Daniel see this difference too? That evening, I felt quiet. I made dinner but didn't say much. Daniel asked, "Are you okay?" I said, "I'm just tired." He said, "You can rest after dinner. I'll help the kids." I said, "Thank you." After dinner, I went to the bedroom and lay down. My heart felt heavy again. I wanted to feel strong. I wanted to feel safe. But I still felt fear. I remembered how Daniel used to look at me. I remembered when we were young. He used to bring me flowers. He used to say, "You are the best thing in my world." Now he still said nice things, but they felt less warm. Maybe it was just in my head. Maybe not. The next day, Daniel took the kids to the park while I stayed home. I cleaned the floor and washed clothes. I felt tired, but I also felt calm. The house was quiet. I sat near the window and drank tea. I thought, I need to find a way to feel better. I can't live in fear every day. When Daniel came home, I said, "Can we talk later? Just you and me?" He said, "Of course." After the kids went to bed, we sat together in the living room. I said, "I need you to tell me the truth again. Do you feel something for Amy?" He looked at me and said, "No, I don't. I see she likes to talk, but I never wanted more. I didn't see the problem until you spoke to me. I love you and our kids. I don't want to hurt you." I asked, "Then why did you help her so much?" He said, "Because I was just trying to be nice. I didn't think it would make you feel this way. I'm sorry." I believed his words. I could see he meant them. I still felt pain inside, but I also felt a small light. He said, "Let's spend more time together. Just us." I smiled and said, "Yes." The next week, we went for a walk without the kids. We held hands. We talked. We laughed a little more. I saw the old Daniel again. I felt like myself again. But I still know Amy is there. She still works with him. She still smiles too much. And I will always watch. I trust Daniel, but I will also protect my family. After many quiet days, things in the house felt calm again. Daniel came home early every evening. He helped the children with their schoolwork. He helped me clean the table after dinner. Sometimes he made tea for me and said, "You look tired. Sit and rest." I smiled and said thank you. These small things helped me feel better. But even when things looked good, my heart still felt unsure. I still remembered how I felt before. I remembered Amy's smile. I remembered how Daniel talked about her. I did not want those memories, but they were still inside me. I told myself, time will help. Just wait and be patient. One Saturday morning, we went to the park. The children ran and laughed. Daniel held my hand as we walked on the small path. He looked at me and said, "I like this. I like being with you like this." I smiled and said, "Me too." It was a simple moment, but I felt warm inside. I told myself, maybe everything is really okay now. That evening, while I folded clothes, Daniel stood in the kitchen. He said, "I need to tell you something. Amy is leaving her job. She found another job in another city." I stopped folding for a second. I looked at him. "When is she leaving?" I asked. He said, "Next week." I nodded. I did not say more. I just went back to folding shirts. That night, I could not sleep well. I thought, Amy will not be near anymore. She will not see Daniel every day. She will not smile at him again. I waited for this day for many weeks, but now I felt quiet. Not happy, just quiet. It was not Amy that was the biggest problem. It was my fear. My fear stayed even when she was gone. The next morning, I made pancakes for the family. The children laughed and talked. Daniel said, "These taste great." I smiled. I looked at our family and felt proud. I said to myself, "This is my home. I will protect it." Later that week, Amy left her job. Daniel told me she said goodbye to everyone, and that was it. I asked, "Did she say anything to you?" He said, "Just goodbye and good luck. Nothing more." I believed him. He looked calm. He looked honest. But I still needed time to feel okay inside. One afternoon, I sat on the sofa. The house was quiet. The kids were at school. Daniel was at work. I looked at the small plant near the window. It was a gift from Daniel. The leaves were green and fresh. I smiled. I touched one leaf and said, "You are growing well." Then I looked at myself in the mirror across the room. I said, "You are growing too." That evening, I spoke to Daniel again. We were both in the kitchen. I said, "Can I ask something?" He said, "Yes, of course." I said, "Why did you help Amy so much before?" He looked at me and said, "I thought I was just being kind, but now I see I was not careful. I didn't think about how it made you feel. I'm sorry for that." I said, "Thank you for saying that. I needed to hear it." He said, "I only want to be close to you. I want us to be strong." I said, "Then let's always talk, even if it's hard." He said, "Yes, talking helps." Days passed and I started to feel lighter. I smiled more. I laughed with the children. I did small things for myself again. I put on my favorite dress. I walked outside with a small bag and bought new tea. I felt more like me. One weekend, Ellen came to visit. We sat in the kitchen and drank tea. She asked, "How is everything now?" I said, "Better. Much better." She looked happy and said, "You look stronger." I smiled and said, "I feel stronger too." I told her, "Daniel and I talk more now. He listens. I also listen. We try to understand each other. It's not perfect, but it's better." She said, "That is what matters. You kept going. You didn't give up." After she left, I sat with Daniel on the sofa. The children played in their room. I looked at him and said, "Thank you for staying. "Thank you for choosing us," he said. "You are my family. There is no better place for me." That night we watched a simple movie. I did not think about Amy. I did not feel scared. I just felt peace. But I also learned something. I learned that love is not only flowers and kind words. It is being there when the heart is weak. It is talking when it's easier to be silent. It is choosing your family again and again. I also learned about myself. I can feel sad and strong at the same time. I can cry and still protect my home. I am not only a wife or a mother. I am also a person who feels deeply and loves deeply. I am not weak because I was scared. I am strong because I stayed and spoke. Now, when Daniel leaves for work, I don't feel the same fear. I say, "Have a good day." I give him a smile and a kiss. I open the window. I feel the sun on my face. I take care of the children. I clean. I cook. I rest. I take a little time to breathe. And I remind myself, I am enough. Our life is not perfect, but it is ours. It is full of small joys, small fights, and small moments of peace. We are still here. We are still together. And every day we choose to stay. I hope have enjoyed the story. Like and comment if you want to hear more soon.